things about Atlanta. So gotta say that before I jump into what we will be talking about. Pre-pandemic, your 20, I'm gonna say where I want to start. Maybe I'll start from maybe like a 2016 up until 2019. That's pre-pandemic for Atlanta, right? Then I'm gonna talk about 2020 to about 2022. That's gonna be your mid-pandemic, right when the pandemic is going on. That was a time to be alive also. But anyway, we're gonna talk about that. And then we're gonna talk about post-pandemic, which will be your 2023 to 2025, where we are now. So again, y'all get y'all popcorn, y'all take y'all notes, y'all might want to go grab y'all man, y'all might want to get y'all homeboys. Go ahead and watch this, because we about to really tackle what's going on here in my city. And if you are thinking of moving here, whether or not this is the move for you, with this new information that I'm about to give y'all. I literally got my notepad, y'all, because I said, you know what, I don't want to be rambling at the mouth. I want to get right to it, and I want y'all to feel like after watching this video, you know if this is the wrong or right move for you. So again, if this is of interest to you, keep on watching. First on our list, we are going to talk about what made them. Now y'all gonna say, who is them? Them is anybody who was not born and raised in Georgia. What made them want to move to Atlanta in the first place? What made y'all want to come here? So let's jump right into that. If you didn't know, I'm about to put you on. Atlanta has been a predominantly black city. The Mecca is what we called it, for years. And this goes back to history, because if you know me, you're gonna know I'm gonna give you some history anytime I talk about anything on my channel. We're gonna start with history. The history of Atlanta. Mayor Jackson, he was one of our mayors. He signed a bill years ago, like early years ago, and when he signed this bill, essentially what it did was it gave a lot of people who were business owners, investors, you name it, but black, the opportunity to grow here in this city. They got pardons for properties. They were able to acquire land. They were able to build, anything they wanted to do here, essentially. Any kind of business they wanted, any kind of investment they wanted to put in. If they were black, he made sure that a lot of black wealth went into this city, as opposed to any other city in the United States. Again, I don't know everybody's history, so if you guys know some, y'all write it down below to help others. But all I know is about Atlanta, Mayor Jackson was the mayor at the time that made sure that Atlanta was able to thrive, not only with white people and their money and their investments, but also black people were able to come in and have something for themselves. Now, when he did this is what gave Atlanta the opportunity to really push forward with black excellence and black success. A lot of y'all see so much going on in Atlanta and have seen this for years. It's because this city was truly set up, and they truly set black people up for success. This city was set up for success for black people. It was. Again, we talking about Atlanta. Outside of Atlanta, don't ask me no questions. You already know. I'm not even gonna go into that. But again, just the city of Atlanta, we have so many opportunities, and it's because of that mayor. And that is why what you saw before you said, oh mama, I'm moving to Atlanta, where you saw these businesses and you see all this black excellence, people of black color are able to be seen in high regard in these high positions. All of our mayors have been black. Things like that, again, is what contributes to why this city is so black. There are many cities, again, that have a large black population, but as far as just where your mayor is black, the police officer is black, the lawyers are black, the justices are black, your bus driver black, everybody black. That is why it is like this. So I always have to start off by giving y'all some history. Now we're gonna talk more about pre-pandemic. Atlanta was just a place to be, y'all. I remember I got my first apartment in the city of Atlanta in 2017, and y'all, it was a time to be alive. Like, there was no such thing as more than $20 a park. There was no such thing as more than, oh, not my light going out on me. They trying to hate on me, y'all. Hold on. Okay, we back, because what God had for you, no man can take. All right, period. But as I was saying, so parking was no more than $20. If you wanted to go to any club, I'm talking about the ones that's lit, the opiums, the compounds, the ones that made Atlanta gold room, that made Atlanta just tantalizing to your eyes. Again, you paying $20 to get in, maybe $30 if you want to skip the line, and that's more like you want to walk right in. Never, ever, ever really more than $20, honestly. The strip clubs always have been maybe about $30. I think maybe if you wanted to, yeah, 30 was the maximum. And that was for the ones like Magic and Onyx. $30 you had to pay to get in. But any other strip club, it was still $10 to get in. It was just a very different time where your money actually went, it made sense. Like, oh, I should be paying $30 to go into a strip club as opposed to paying, $20 to go to a regular club. It makes sense because you got to see a little something. So it's very different, right? Everything that, essentially what I'm saying is everything made sense during this time. So it's very easy going. Also, different thing pre-pandemic was Atlanta didn't have a lot of diversity. It didn't have a lot of diversity. Different restaurants, really it was just fried chicken and American deli and some with grease in it. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like, this city to me didn't start seeing this diverse food essentially until mid-pandemic, but I'm gonna get into that. So I just kind of want to paint a picture for you. It was a very easier way of life. You come in, you make your money, you go home. If you want to go out, you had the means to, and you wasn't spending an arm and a leg to be out, and nobody was charging you an arm and a leg because that wasn't our culture. Atlanta is in Georgia, which is still very much a southern state. It's a southern state. There's a lot of redneck, it's a lot of that going on down here. So with that being said, Atlanta was like a little bit like a step up from that, if that makes sense. Like, no one had to spend all this money to have fun, be in the mix. You could still get your hair done, and they actually have licenses. It was just a very different time, and it was truly a great time. It still was a beautiful time to be here. So much so, at this point in my life, I said, you know what, this is where I'm going to be at. I had my friends, I had my fun, and I knew what was going on with that. During pre-pandemic, people started to move here, but they weren't necessarily moving here because, Atlanta was just this lit place. Like, during that time, I'm trying to think of the rappers who was on top. Like Young Thug was making music back then and on the scene. Rich Homie Quan, rest in peace, Rich Homie Quan, y'all. Woo! Rest in peace, Rich Homie Quan. But nonetheless, they were on top. T.I. was still putting out music at the time. Gucci Mane, Future was kind of like in his mid-career during this time. Lil Baby hadn't even popped as how he is now. He hadn't even popped yet around this time. So this was just a really fresh time where Atlanta was on its way, but wasn't quite there yet, if that makes sense. So I just want to put that into perspective. People moved here because they genuinely were interested in moving to Atlanta, whether their job switched or they just felt like it's more affordable. Atlanta was a city to move to where it was affordable. It's more affordable. So I feel like that is what attracted people moving here pre-pandemic. Now we about to move into the end of 2019, moving right along into 2020, March 2020. We all know the date. It ain't no secret. That is the day that everybody in the United States had to make a decision. You had to make a decision on what the next couple of months, years. We didn't know how long the pandemic was gonna last, let alone what it all came with. Like, everybody was in the unknown when the pandemic popped off in March 2020. Just like every other city, March 2020, Atlanta shut down. My birthday is in May. So all I'm gonna say is this is how I can tell you guys the truth of what I seen. We shut down March 2020. By May 2020, which was 2 months later, oh baby, we was outside. And I know this, a lot of y'all know what I'm talking about, but some of y'all mouth gonna be on the ground. We was outside. I know y'all are like, what? Yes. So sad. People were dying. People were getting sick. People was losing their jobs. People were having to figure out how they gonna move and keep going on with life. But baby, if you was living in Atlanta during that time, you was popping bottles, you was having your way, you literally was working at McDonald's at the end of 2019. But baby, by May, June, July 2020, oh, you was having 2-3 cars, you was having that jewelry, you was having the Cuban link. One little baby said, left wrist on froze, white wrist on froze, necklace on froze, both of my earrings on froze. Baby, let me tell you something. I saw this city went from being here to on steroids. Like, it was crazy. I kid y'all not. People I went to school with, people I saw around the way, it's like overnight they just was these having kings and queens. They was taking them trips, they was buying whips, they was buying houses, they was doing all of the above. And I, in my opinion, because again, I'm inside looking out from right here, I feel like the world, everybody else was shut down. Them other places was shut down. Atlanta wasn't shut. Atlanta was open, baby. Atlanta was open. I feel like people saw that and their eyes got big and they said, oh, I need to take my talents down there. I feel like people who, had the means, whether you were some type of celebrity or you were an influencer, essentially you had a job where you could just pick up and move to another city. They saw that as an opportunity to say, oh, okay, so we all in the house now. A lot of influencers, including myself, made a lot of money during 2020 because people had to stay home. They had to stay home and watch the long videos. They had to get on TikTok. That's when TikTok blew up during the pandemic. We forget now because that was 4 years ago now, but TikTok literally blew up during the pandemic because people didn't have nothing else to do but sit at home and make videos. So being an influencer during this time, of course you're gonna move to Atlanta. Why wouldn't you? It's affordable. I live in the Midwest, West Coast, South, but wherever people live that's more affordable than Atlanta. More expensive than Atlanta. Why wouldn't you pack up everything you got? Oh, you mean I can live in a 2-bedroom skyrise apartment in Atlanta and be paying $2,600? They on 2 wheels. They're on 2 wheels to move here. And I feel like so many people saw that and saw how people was having their way. By this time, Lil Baby on top, Future on top, Thug on top, Gunna is on top. I'm just thinking about all the littest, they're the littest rappers in Atlanta right now currently. They seeing that and they're like, they having a way. People out here getting money. Scamming was at an all-time high. I'm gonna get to that PPP money in a minute. I'm gonna get to that in a minute. But saying all that to say, it was just a time where Atlanta looked so attractive. Atlanta was so attractive to all these different, states. And I feel like it made people say, I need to stop what I'm doing and I need to get to this city. We call it the Great Migration. It's like everybody decided they needed to be in Atlanta. They gotta be here, they gotta drop everything, now they gotta come, right? So again, this is during the pandemic, everything going good, money being spent. It don't matter what kind of job you had, even me, in the pandemic, I went and got me a new job. I work in corporate. I went and got me another job. Like, literally, everybody was putting in their resignations left and right in 2021 because it was so many jobs to be had here. You can go wherever you wanted. You could demand a $20,000 raise. You could do whatever you wanted during this time because it was like that. It was like, oh, I can find me a new job. I don't have to stay here. I can do this. I can do that. So a lot of people left their jobs in 2021 and 2022 and sought after new jobs. I don't know if this was just an Atlanta thing, but like I said, this is kind of what was going on in Georgia. People just had money to throw around, and it did not just impact these major companies. They were able to have this extra money to hire more people. People who work in the club was able to hire more dancers, hire more bartenders, everybody could hire. And y'all know why. Now let's get back to why. Y'all know that PPP loan changed lives. It did. It changed lives, y'all. It changed lives. It changed lives. Again, you working at McDonald's today and tomorrow you're on a PJ. Literally, like, nothing's wrong with working at McDonald's, so I don't want nobody to come for me like, girl, my first job was at McDonald's, so let's be clear. But all I'm saying is, like, that time in our lives where people were getting those loans and they ain't have to pay them back, all broke loose, y'all. I'm gonna be honest. And this city benefited the most. From what I've seen, this city benefited the most from the pandemic. And because of that, we had this influx of new bodies moving to Atlanta. And it really was a time, y'all. I will be honest. It was a time to be alive in a sense where everyone was happy. Everybody was happy. The only negative things going on in my city during this time was it was at an all-time high. You was getting your car broken into. They was busting the windows left and right. And I believe that also contributed to they knew people had the money to get it fixed. They knew people was gonna get it fixed. They had the money. They still had that PPP loan money left over, and it was nothing. They were targeting high-end apartment complexes and high-end neighborhoods. If you lived off Bankhead, they went over there by you. They went ready to switch them stuff. They was targeting, they was in that Buckhead heavy, which is why, again, giving you guys more context, why Buckhead is now considered not the best place to live now. Back in pre-pandemic, if you lived in Buckhead, you was Himothy. You was Hermity. It was like, oh, it's going on. And not to say that it's not anymore, but it's just so many good and positive things happened during this time to where I just think now Atlanta looks very different, and what used to be seen, what used to be looked at as cream of the crop, unfortunately, the pandemic kind of made it like everybody could do that. You living in Buckhead, oh, everybody live over there now. Oh, it's not anything to obtain anymore, if that makes sense, because it became so accessible, right? So saying all this to say, that's, in my opinion, what made people move here. That's what made people stop what they were doing. These same people, unfortunately, now we're gonna get into part 3. It made these same people decide it might be time to leave, because that when you're on such a high, unfortunately, you gotta come down. So let's get into part 3. So why are people all of a sudden leaving Atlanta? This is the part y'all really want to see. Why are people leaving? I'm gonna just keep it. Y'all know I keep it real. If you new here, you don't know me, but I call stuff how I see it, and I don't care how you see it. Make your own platform. You can talk about it. Number one reason why people are leaving: the money dried up. Money gone. Money gone. Money has dried up, babes. The money is gone, honey. It came so fast and it went faster. The money gone. The unfortunate thing about Atlanta, although Atlanta is looked at to a certain degree a major city, Atlanta does not have the same type of wealth that some of the major cities have built, like a New York or a San Francisco, Los Angeles, you know, Miami. I would say Miami as well. Like those cities, for years to come, it's always been those heavy hitters, those people who really having like that in large amounts. And obviously they don't be black. Let's also say that too. They don't be black. They be Hispanic, they're white, they're Asian. That's where those people are in those other cities. So again, what made Atlanta beautiful and attractive, you're seeing black people having wealth. We all know slavery not that far behind. We are black people. I ain't talking about Africans, Nigerians. We're talking about black people who are born in America, black people. We have not always had wealth. We barely know our history. We were brought over from another country. Like, it runs deep. This video not about that, but y'all know how I am. I get with you on that. However, with that being said, here in the South, which y'all know was a part of the Confederacy, that's not our story. Our story was not always black people being at these high levels in the South. It was never our story. That's the story of people who lived in the North. You know, when the slavery broke off, a lot of us fled to the North because of having those opportunities to own homes and, you know, invest in all those things. Even some of us went west because that was called the golden. I think it was called like the golden, something about gold. They went west essentially. So again, the South, anybody in the South who stayed in the South, they really had to work. They think I'm not saying the other ones did it. Don't come for me and say my granddaddy did this. I'm talking about the people in the South had to work their fingers to the bone to have what they had. To be successful in the South, you're Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, the real South, baby. You had to put in some work to overcome what was going on down here. So saying all that to say, when the pandemic ended, when the PPP loan stuff ended, unfortunately, the money was gone. So with that being said, all those guys who was having their way and they told they friends, hey, come move down here with me, I got y'all. Or the guys who dating the influencer girls, the popping girls, and said, hey, y'all come move to Atlanta, I got you, I'm gonna take care of us. Or you know, the family of four that decided, oh, well, let's try a different city out. I see a lot of black people moving to this city. That's different. Or the guy who likes guys, a gay guy, says, oh, Atlanta lit. Let me go ahead down there. It's a lot of us down there. I'm just giving y'all different scenarios of different types of people. The single woman who looked good, you know, freshly got her body done, like, oh, I'm about to go to Atlanta. They got them kings out there, girl. These are all the people, along with, you know, other people obviously, who are looking at this and say, I need to move here. Y'all get here. If y'all didn't get here at the prime time, then y'all move here in 2023 thinking you getting 2022, 2021 and beyond Atlanta. No, you getting what's called the post-pandemic. Baby, the money is gone. They ain't got it no more. They can't help you. They can't fund those lifestyles like they used to. There are no jobs here. Let me say that again, because I know y'all gonna miss that part. There are no jobs here. I'm talking about jobs, corporate jobs. There are no jobs here. There are no jobs here. I just have to say that because I don't think people look at that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's very different now, and I feel like the money got spent, and we, all of us, and I'm talking about people who live here and been here, we are all trying to recover from that. It's almost like, you know, showing somebody a new life. This is what your new life is. And then all of a sudden being like, oh, I can't do that for you no more, baby. I'm sorry. That's essentially what my city did to us. And a lot of us are trying to figure out what this new normal looks like. I'm gonna be honest. The new normal is different. Because of that pandemic time where the money was good, all these club owners, all these people saw like, oh, people moving here from all these places. I can charge $100 to park now. I can charge $40 to get in a club, a regular club, not no strip club. I can now charge $60 to get in a strip club. I can charge people $15 to park plus another $10 to walk in, and you gotta pay for your food. That's what's going on here now, y'all. Like, it's scary. It's so scary that, you know, if I wasn't born and raised here, I probably would be up out of here too. I ain't gonna help with you. I would probably be walking on out of here. I ain't leaving my mama though. I ain't leaving my mama and my daddy and my brother and my cousins. I ain't going nowhere. I ain't leaving my folks. However, if I didn't have like my family here, I probably would be on two wheels, because it's like you would think they see, oh, people ain't got it no more, and they would say, okay, let's go back to normal. They not doing that. And you know why they not doing it? Not because they don't feel us, but they can't. You know why? Because a lot of those people, when that money was coming in, they made their lifestyles match. Like, oh, now I'm about to get this Rolls Royce, and I'm about to get this 7-bedroom home. I'm about to tell my mama she ain't gotta work no more. I'm about to tell my girl to quit her job. Like, I'm not trying to be funny, but that's what happened. People were making so much money during the pandemic here in Atlanta, Georgia, to where they was making all these new rules. And unfortunately, now that the money ain't hitting the same, it ain't the same, is either they gotta, I mean, really back to hustling. I mean, just to be honest, this city is back in hustle mode. This city is back in hustle mode. It's not no more handouts. It's not no more easy money. It's not no more free money. You gotta work hard now. You gotta put the time in. You gotta do what you gotta do, because the money is gone. I keep saying it, but the money gone, y'all. And I just want to make sure I'm hitting everything on my notes, because I just want to like the reason why I do these videos is because everybody love Atlanta. I know why y'all love Atlanta. Y'all love Atlanta for the same reasons I do. I just went to San Francisco not too long ago. Beautiful city. Beautiful city. Most beautiful city I ever seen. But where we at though? And I'm talking about us. We are not there because we can't afford to be there. Not because we not want it. Not because it's racist. It's not any of those things. We cannot afford to be there because to be black in America is so different than being black. I want to make sure I say this right. Being black in America is so different.
You have a message.
Yeah.
America, being Asian in America, being white in America, you know, being Hispanic in America. I just think people are not smart. I'm just gonna be honest. They don't sit back and think before they say things. And one thing I know is people love to talk about black people and how we move, how we spend our money, how we do this and the third. We black people are so different from every other race to where it's never gonna look the same, y'all. It's never gonna look the same. Y'all know y'all history. Y'all know where y'all came from. Y'all know what y'all got going on. Literally, half of us, if not majority of us, have no idea outside of our grandmothers and great grandmothers where they came from. We just don't know. We don't know. And again, it's not an excuse, but it's like, give us grace when it comes to that. Atlanta is a great place to be because you see people that look like you in these positions. You see them here. You see them here. You're not seeing that in San Francisco. You're not seeing it in New York. You're not seeing it. And when I say you're not seeing it, you're seeing a percentage of that there. The percentage of that there, the 2-3%ers, as opposed to you come to Atlanta, it's 10-15%. That's a huge difference. So anyway, in short, I just kind of wanted to sit and discuss this with y'all because it's been heavy on my heart. I hate to see people say, oh, Atlanta has done what it did for me and it's time for me to leave. It breaks my heart because not only am I from here is why it breaks my heart. I know a lot of us will say, oh, good riddance, go ahead, leave. We want y'all, you know, we love to say we full. That's our favorite thing to say. But as somebody who really care and love this city, I hate to see y'all go only because it's just like, yeah, you know, you can go somewhere else, try other cities, but it's just like being black. It's something important and it's something beautiful about, you know, being in a black city and knowing how to navigate a black city. Again, Atlanta is black, but Georgia is diverse. And a lot of people will sit and say, Georgia ain't diverse enough. I mean, they'll say Atlanta, obviously. Atlanta not diverse and it ain't this, that, and the third. Yes, it is. It's regardless of how black this city seems, it's still more of everybody else combined than it is of us. Do your research, know what you're talking about. I know it's so easy to point the finger and make it sound good, like you know what you're talking about, but until you actually do your research and see, you will know, like, you know, this is a very diverse city. What I love the most about this city is it is diverse. If you wake up every morning and pick and choose to go to black lounges and black, of course you just gonna see black people, but there's so much more to this city than just blackness. It's a beautiful melting pot of all things, and most of all, what makes Atlanta beautiful is that you can be black and succeed here. So anyway, that's my spiel. I just felt like it was time. It's been a while since I've done one of these videos, and I really wanted to jump and dive deep into that because
feel threatened. And child, listen, I want y'all to tell me whether or
Do
not
not call me a child. I am no child.
I want
Don't
to
even
find
start.
out
I am a grown
which
woman.
of those
I'm 47 years
emails
old. I have broken
actually
more
have
glass ceilings than you
Chairman,
have.
I am reclaiming my time.
You will not do that. I
Order.
am not a child.
I am reclaiming my time.
If you want to take it outside,
Mr. Chairman, the committee is not
Okay,
in order.
order.
Point of order. Point of order.
Order.
Which is direct violation against the rules, inciting violence against another member.
Nancy Mace complained that Jasmine Crockett actually called her a child, which caused her to strike back.
Be back. Good morning to those born January. What is it, the 16th? Thursday. Happy birthday to who else born January 16th. It's your boy Doug. Been under the weather, guys. That's why you haven't heard from me. But it's breaking. I had a lot of phlegm build up. The phlegm is breaking up. I've been on cough suppressant, Primatine, you name it. So we out here trying to keep moving. We're in
What's your
Bogart,
strongest
Georgia,
opinion right now?
and
My strongest?
we are out here doing what we do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Sanders.
Thank you. Congratulations on your new title here. Mr. Zeldin, thanks so much for coming in the office the other day. I enjoyed our chat. Mr. Zeldin, 2024, as you know, was the hottest year in recorded history. The past 10 years have been the hottest 10 years on record. We have seen in recent years unprecedented firefighters in the West Coast and in Canada, and we're seeing the horrific situation in LA right now. We have seen unprecedented flooding in China, displaced millions of people there. Unprecedented drought in Brazil, Africa, and elsewhere. And in Southern Africa, people are dying because of the drought and their inability to grow crops. Billions of people have been sweltering in Europe and elsewhere in unprecedented heat waves. In the midst of all of that, President-elect Trump has said that climate change is a hoax. You will be, if confirmed, one of the leading spokespeople in this country, representing us throughout the entire world. Do you agree with President-elect Trump that climate change is a hoax?
Well, first off, Senator, it was great to meet with you as well. I believe that climate change is real, as I told you. As far as President Trump goes, the context that I've heard him speak about it was with a criticism of policies that have been acted because of climate change, and I think that he's concerned about the economic costs of some policies where there's a debate and a difference of opinion between parties.
I would respectfully disagree with you. I think he has called it a hoax time and time and time again. And I would just say for the record and let me ask you this question. All right? Some of us have used the word existential threat. What we're seeing in LA right now is apocalyptic. And the other terrible weather disturbances, whether in the Midwest of this country, whether in many states that are represented right here. Unprecedented floods in my small state of Vermont. We've been hit over and over again in recent years. Our state capital, Montpelier, was underwater recently in a way that we have not seen. Would you describe climate change as an existential threat?
You have a message.
To get our act together to address it.
Senator, we must, with urgency, be addressing these issues. And today, as we talk about any way at all that the EPA can do its part to make sure that our air and water are cleaner, healthier,
Staying on
safer.
look, EPA has enormous responsibilities over an enormous number of areas. I'm focusing on picking up what Senator Whitehouse said. I worry very much. Do you have kids?
Yes, Senator.
Okay. I worry. Many of us have kids. We have grandchildren. This is serious stuff. This is beyond politics, my friends. This is the future of humanity. And if we do not get our act together, and that is not just the United States of America, this requires international cooperation. So let me ask you another difficult question. If tomorrow, magically, the United States Congress did all of the right things, that would not be enough. Climate change is a global crisis. It requires the cooperation of China, Russia, Europe, Latin America, etc. Are you prepared to represent the United States aggressively with some of your colleagues in reaching out to countries all over the world to cut carbon emissions?
Senator, it's very important
You have a message.
EPA, whether traveling to the G7 or the G20 or elsewhere, to be reaching out to these other countries to make sure that there is a pressure on other nations to do their part as well. And it is my job to stay up at night, to lose sleep at night, to make sure that we are making our air and our water cleaner.
All right. I know it's fashionable to be beating up on China. It's good politics. They are now the major carbon polluter in the world. We have historically had that role. We're now number 2. We're not going to solve this crisis without working with China. Are you and hopefully your colleagues, if you are confirmed, prepared to work with China to try to lower carbon emissions?
Senator, on many different issues, it is important not just to be working with nations that we are the strongest aligned with, but to also be in communication with and engaged in dialogue with countries that might be considered competitors and also our greatest adversaries. China is a...
You have a message.
Yeah.
You have a message.
Yeah.
Had a provision in there for, I believe, $7 billion to lower electric bills for working class people all over this country by helping them install solar panels on their roof. We did it, my wife and I did it in our house. Our electric bill went down by 80%. Problem is many working class, lower income people can't afford the initial cost to install the solar panels. That's what this bill does. Can I have your word right now that you will work with me to make sure that that Solar for All program is rapidly and effectively implemented all over the country?
Senator, it is my obligation on this and every other law enacted by Congress that I will follow my obligations under the law. And when it comes to spending money, it is important that I have the ability to sit before you and account for every dollar that's being spent by the EPA. So I will. I know that this is an important priority of you, and solar power.
Sorry.
That's okay.
That was the fossil fuel industry.
I look forward to working with you on this, Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Senator Curtis.
Thank you. And before I begin, just a big thanks to all my colleagues on the committee, Madam Chair, Mr. Ranking Member, and all my colleagues. Really look forward to working with you on this committee, and I'm very excited to be part of this. Mr. Zeldin, I'm from Utah. In Utah, we're pretty proud of our beauty, of our natural resources. It really would be hard to find a more spectacular place in the United States. Everything from 5 national parks, arches and monuments and ski resorts. And I think because of that, Utahns have this inherent desire to take care of it, to leave it better than we found it, to make sure that we're not polluting. I can find total agreement in Utah that less pollution is better than more pollution, less emissions is better than more emissions, and that we want to leave the earth better than we found it. And you and I had the benefit of working together in the House. And I just want to use this opportunity to thank you for your support of my work in talking about climate, talking about some of these issues that are being addressed this morning. And I just, for all my colleagues who didn't see us work together in the House, I just want to emphasize how helpful you were getting Republicans talking about climate and dealing with some of these serious issues. I don't know if you want to comment on that or have any thoughts on that.
Well, Senator, congratulations. I'm looking forward to serving with you in this new capacity, and I enjoyed our work together. I would say that there's a lot that should unite Republicans and Democrats, conservatives and liberals as it relates to the environment. I represented a district where people who are conservative Republicans would be able to unite with people who identify as more liberal Democrats to focus on making our environment better. That type of work together, that common ground, is what the American public are desperate for. They are looking for us to be able to find pragmatic, common sense solutions to be able to represent their interests here in DC.
Yeah, and I'll just double down. My experience is you're the right person to do that, and I appreciate your efforts. Now, all of that said, let me talk about some problems in Utah, and some of that has to do with our geology and geography. And you and I, when you were in my office, we talked specifically about the Uinta Basin. 80% of the methane that is registered in the basin doesn't come from traditional fossil fuel sources. It comes from ground sources, it comes from air that comes into the region, and yet they're judged and measured on that whole 100%, not the 20% that they admit. Our geography also surrounds us with mountains. We like to call them real mountains as opposed to the hills that we have on the East Coast, and that traps in.
Wow.
Good way to start on the committee.
I'm from the mountain state.
That traps in.
You want to rephrase that?
That traps in all the emissions. administrators some flexibility. Also, for instance, flexibility in things like technology, being agnostic to the technology and being more focused on the end result, I think would help us get some better results. Finally, in the last few seconds, your predecessor in the House had to deal with me every time that he would come before us talking about his low approval rate on getting chemicals approved. They are 0% a statutory requirement getting these chemicals approved. And I would joke with him, like, you could actually, it's statistically impossible. You could stumble on some approvals, right, accidentally. So I just want to warn you that I'm going to be as tough on you as I was on him, and that this is important. A lot of these chemicals can replace some of these PFAS chemicals, and if we can't get them approved, it just makes the difficulty of getting these off the market near impossible. So look forward to working with you on that. And look forward to seeing you in the mountains of Utah. I yield my time.
Your seat has been relocated over there by Senator Moran. Senator Merkley.
Thank you, and I'm completely down with Senator Curtis's description. My daughter and I went by U-Haul across the country, starting on the East Coast, and we went through those East Coast hills, and by the morning of the third day, she woke up and saw the mountains. We were in the middle of the Rockies, and her eyes got wide, and she said, "Now I understand, well, Dad, why you say the only real mountains are in the West." So let's just say it's a bipartisan fact, agreed to right here. Mr. Zeldin, you have made an emphasis on the science being the foundation. And one of the concerns that I have is regard to the role of paid influencers. And you have reported that you have been paid to do various op-eds. Would you provide to the committee a list of all of the payments you've received and who is paying you, and a copy of the op-eds you prepared, so that we have a complete understanding of your background in that area?
Yes, Senator, and I also have provided that as part of my financial disclosure, and both ethics at EPA and the Office of Government Ethics has reviewed all of those submissions in providing that clearance letter to the committee.
Yes, we do have your financials. They do not give the details on the text of which op-eds, and sometimes it's obscured. For example, the $50,000 to $100,000 that you were paid for op-eds, but it also says speaking fees, use of media studio, and so forth. So if you could tie the actual payments for the op-eds to the op-eds you wrote, so it's just so we have a clear and transparent understanding of that piece, because we want to have our folks serve the public interest and have that foundations of science you're speaking to. But I think the citizens deserve to understand, as we wrestle with this moment, that background, and also the background. You've rented out your media studio multiple times. Was that for doing interviews? Did you do interviews in your media studio, and then you asked to be paid for using your own media studio for interviews? So
twofold. First off, the first point, I have provided a breakdown of every individual op-ed as well as the publication and the date of the publication. Any further, if you need us to print up what was referenced, we're happy to do that. And as far as the media studio, I owned a media studio. So networks could rent, can use that studio for ATV.
Thank you. Appreciate that, those details. And we'll take a look at that list. You've also, over the course of your career, received a lot of campaign funding from the oil and gas industry. I think it's estimated at $270,000. Can you assure citizens that the campaign support you received from oil and gas industry will not influence your service to the public of the United States?
Yes, Senator. There's no donation that anyone has ever provided me at any point of any amount that is going to influence any decision that I make in this position or beyond.
Second, I want to emphasize the point that my colleagues have made about climate change. We are seeing a massive loss of insurance policies on the West Coast and in Florida. In Florida, 16 companies have gone bankrupt. Another 16 have stopped issuing policies. State Farm has withdrawn a massive number of policies from California. We had 6 towns burned to the ground in my home state of Oregon, less well publicized across the country. So it is really a challenge. Huge number of folks in California are having to go to a state program they created, same in Florida, because no insurance would insure properties. The problem with those is there's no great solution. They're extremely expensive and difficult and have very limited coverage. All right, so I want to continue on plastics. I've been very concerned about plastics. We have more and more articles. This article I'll submit for the record. Thank you. The Washington Post has just found out about the threat between microplastics and cancer, and it goes on to talk about colon cancer, the imbalance of antioxidants, lung cancer. We've had a whole series of articles about
You have a message.
of microplastics in human brains out of New Mexico. It's out for peer review right now, but we're learning more and more. We now have plastics in breast milk, plastics in every organ of the body, and plastics in our brain. In fact, it turns out, according to this study, if this turns out to be accurate, the highest accumulation of plastics is in our brains. We also have a record of microplastics and nanoplastics affecting human fertility. Plastic is, by its chemical structure, an endocrine disruptor. Are you familiar? Have you steeped yourself in the science and problems associated with plastics in the human body?
Yes, Senator. And I enjoyed being able to meet with you and your team in your office, where clearly this is an issue of great interest and passion of yours. I would look forward to an opportunity to be able to read what you're referencing specifically, just so that I can become intimately familiar with any detail that you're citing that I have not read before.
I was hoping that's what you're going to do after our meeting in our office. You're going to go out and say, I got to read all these articles.
Senator, and I would look forward to continuing to read even further.
There is an effort by the chemical industry to say, don't worry, we'll just melt everything down in big pots to keep the plastics out of the waste stream. They call it chemical recycling. It's basically thermal melting. But it has proved to only be usable in very limited, basically manufacturing waste as opposed to post-consumer plastics. But they're trying to sell it as the absolute cure. Don't worry, we can go from 8% recycling in America to a high percent. Are you familiar with the very limited role, but the chemical industry is trying to say, don't worry, be happy on plastics?
I'm aware, yes, sir.
Do you understand, and have you made yourself knowledgeable of the inaccuracies that are being publicized about this thermal strategy?
Senator, I am researching and reading all that's being provided on all sides of this issue. Going back to my time in the House, I advocated to clean up our waterways around my district, and as I cited in my opening, the bipartisan work between Senator Whitehouse and Senator Sullivan on Save Our Seas and Save Our Seas 2.0 should be a model to be followed of bipartisanship to go even further.
I see I'm over time. I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I'll just close by saying, in plastics, there's a big story trying to be sold about don't worry. It'll be your responsibility to make sure you speak the truth to the American people.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to congratulate you and the ranking member. It's a great committee for our new members. We get a lot of things done here, usually very bipartisan. We have some differences, but that's okay. Mr. Eldner, it was great meeting with you. Congratulations to your family as well. Thanks for your service. It's not always easy, we know. Alaska, we love our clean water, clean air. We know we have some of the cleanest air and water in the world. We're proud of that. We don't always think the EPA has helped in that regard. It's more state actions. So I want to begin by getting you to commit to me to come up to Alaska with me, bring your family. We can do some fishing maybe after you see all the important elements of Alaska. Big mountains, no offense to Utah, but real big ones. So we have a little fun on state size in this committee. But can I get your commitment to do that?
Yes, Senator. And unlike predecessors of mine who attempted to try to negotiate an August trip, I would want to go when it's as cold and dark as possible.
Yeah, well, it's happening right now. We have communities in Alaska that are hitting 30, 40 below zero. And so we'd love to have you in the winter and summer. So
Senator Ricketts looks like he wants to come with me, so I look forward to it.
Love to have him. Second, I really appreciate the shout out to me and Senator Whitehouse on the Save Our Seas Act, Save Our Seas 2.0. That was the most comprehensive ocean cleanup legislation in the history of the country. Those were both signed by President Trump. You might want to ask Senator Whitehouse at some point about the signing ceremony that we had in the Oval Office with President Trump on Save Our Seas 1.0 was Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross and others. It was great. So can you commit to me to work with this committee? I think we already have President Trump's commitment to continue the progress we've made on ocean cleanup, plastics cleanup. It's good bipartisan work. The Trump administration and the president himself is very committed, and so are we. And we're already working on 3.0. We got to focus on the implementation of SOS 2.0.
Yes,
Can
sir.
we get your commitment on that?
Yes.
Great. Well, look, I want to go back to Senator Kramer's issue of, in your opening statement about honoring cooperative federalism. And as you know, our Clean Air Act, our Clean Water Act laws from Congress contemplate a scheme of cooperative federalism that provides an active, in some case, primary role for states on these laws. Will you commit to doing to that? Because it's a really important issue for my state.
Yes, Senator.
So one of the areas where we haven't seen cooperative federalism at all is the way in which the EPA in my state has a history of enforcing the laws. And no offense to my Democratic colleagues, this is always with Democrat administrations. The Obama administration what they do is they come in with giant, heavy armed agents, body armor, helicopters. Like, it's shocking. We had a raid on some placer miners in a place called Chicken, Alaska, under President Obama. Over 30 armed agents, body armors, to do what? Do compliance on the Clean Water Act. They didn't find one violation. They scared the hell out of the miners. Okay? Then, not to be outdone, the Biden administration has done these raids on small mechanic shops in Alaska. They bring up EPA agents from all over the country, 30 armed agents kicking in doors in mechanic shops in Alaska. By the way, my state believes in the Second Amendment. Most of my state is armed. This is very dangerous because some of these agents could get shot when they're coming in. So what's happened is you don't have cooperative federalism. You have rogue EPA agents who are going to enforcement before they talk about compliance. On any of these issues, they could have gone to these mechanic shops. They could have gone to the miners saying, hey, we think you may be violating the Clean Water Act. Can you work with us? No. These guys come, they had 40 agents, all of them armed, raiding these mechanic shops. It is just an outrage. Can I get your commitment to focus on compliance rather than jumping to armed enforcement? And secondly, look, I believe in an armed citizenry. I believe in the Second Amendment. I don't believe in an armed bureaucracy. The EPA is a SWAT team. Do you believe the EPA should even have armed agents? When they go into places, they can just have the local police or local state troopers. You got these guys out of control in Alaska, and it is dangerous. And the current EPA administrator, I sent him letters on this. He didn't answer me. Someone's going to get hurt. Can I get your commitment to focus on compliance, civil compliance, as opposed to kicking in doors with body armor, assault rifles, helicopters? It's crazy, and it's really outrageous, and it happens under Democrats, not President Trump, Democrats.
Senator, it is outrageous. The story that you told and Senator Murkowski shared with me as well with regards to Chicken, Alaska, it led me, as somebody who's going through this transition, to asking questions as to how did that even get authorized? Who signs off on it? What is the standards that need to be met in order to even say yes to an operation like that?
With 30 agents from EPA agents from all over America came up to raid a mechanic shop, a small business that I think there was 8 guys who owned it. They were National Guard guys, great Alaskans. Can I get your commitment on that and to work with me? And Do you think the EPA should be armed? I don't.
Senator, if something requires an enforcement action on a prosecutorial front, that is working with the Department of Justice. Congress has enacted laws where enforcement is part of the effort. On the compliance front, there are people and entities owning property where there is mitigation that needs to happen, and where they want to work with the government to mitigate that situation on their property. We should be working with them to make that happen.
Great.
All right,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Senator Kelly, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Zeldin, congratulations on your nomination, and thanks for coming by my office a couple weeks ago. As we discussed, Arizona has some unique challenges that we need some help from EPA leadership on, and we need to work with you as a collaborative partner to help us address some specific air quality and water quality challenges that we're facing, and to do this in a way that does not disrupt our state's growth. We're a rapidly growing state. So let's start with air quality. As we discussed, Maricopa County, which is Phoenix, half the population of the state, is in non-attainment under the Clean Air Act for ground level ozone pollution. Now, under the Clean Air Act, the way the law assumes air quality can be improved is by reducing emissions from stationary sources of emissions, like big manufacturing. Might make sense in some parts of the country, certainly in more industrialized areas, the Rust Belt, the East Coast, but it doesn't make sense in Phoenix. And the reason is we're a really young state, and we don't have a history of this heavy manufacturing. And manufacturing, by the way, is not the source of our air quality challenges in Maricopa County. EPA's own modeling shows that 80% of the ozone-forming pollutants in the Phoenix area come from either natural sources like wildfires or sources outside of the region, like California and Mexico. Now, this means that the typical EPA playbook for how to improve air quality and protect public health is not going to work in Phoenix. It's just not. So we need partnership and collaboration with the EPA headquarters and EPA Region 9 to address these challenges. And we've been working closely with state and local officials and our business community on this. And there are specific actions that we're asking for EPA partnership on. So I'd like to ask for your commitment to working with us on these issues. I'm going to go through them. There's like 4 of them. First, we have several new source review permits currently under review by the Region 9 office. If confirmed, will you commit to ensuring that those permits are prioritized for review?
Senator, your priorities will be mine. We'll make sure that we follow the law, but making sure that this is top of the list.
Thank you. And second, Maricopa County has submitted 2 local rules, which are called Rule 204 and 205. We spoke about those in my office, that would provide alternative pathways for generating offsets for new permits for new manufacturing facilities. So remember what I said, we don't have the heavy manufacturing that's shut down that would generate a permit. So these rules have some other ways to do that. So both rules are still pending final approval, although I understand that Region 9 and Maricopa County have been meeting weekly on this to resolve some outstanding issues. But Mr. Zeldin, will you commit to ensuring this coordination between EPA and the county can continue with the goal of having both rules approved as soon as possible?
Senator, while I can't prejudge outcome as far as approval goes on anything, you absolutely have my commitment to be able to work with you, those local partners, to come to Arizona. You also mentioned the Yuma example as well. And as you pointed out, you come from a state where in a place like Maricopa, you don't have a lot of these sites shutting down. You have more coming in, which is a good problem to have in one way, but you definitely need that partnership with EPA.
Yeah, it's challenging in the other way. And that's what we've got to figure out. Third, as I noted, we're still trying to understand the long-term reasons our air quality is getting worse and how to resolve that challenge. Will you commit to help Maricopa County develop some better models to understand why our air quality is getting worse in Maricopa County and help us find some solutions to address this long-term?
Yes, Senator.
And fourth, in that same vein, we know that emissions from Mexico are a serious contributor to our air quality challenges throughout Arizona. Will you commit to having the EPA Region 9 and the EPA Office of Transportation and Air Quality work with our local officials to ensure that our attainment plans account for cross-border pollution?
Yes, Senator. I also heard this concern from both Senator Schiff and Senator Padilla as it relates to Tijuana and the southern border of California. This is clearly an issue across states. I look forward to working with you on this issue.
And then finally, will you also commit to working to find solutions to ensure regions throughout the western United States aren't penalized for emissions created by wildfire smoke?
Yes, Senator.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ricketts.
Thank you, Chairman Capito, and congratulations again to Chairman Capito and Ranking Member Whitehouse on your new roles. And you mentioned our new member, Senator Curtis, but we also have a new member, Senator Schiff, with us as well.
We actually have 3 new members on our side, and I've been waiting for them to assemble.
Oh, okay, very good. I didn't want to leave Senator Schiff out because he's there. No, not at all. I'm excited to work with the entire team here with regard to the upcoming session here. And Congressman Zeldin, good to see you again. Thank you very much for being here, and again, appreciate your family sacrifices in the past and serving our country, and your continued willingness to sacrifice and serve our country again in this new role. You know, rule of law is what binds Americans' trust to government, right? All too often, we've seen under this Biden administration that the rule of law and congressional intent has been subverted by trying to appease radical left-wing environmentalists. And that undermines people's faith in government and the rule of law and the trust of our institutions. So thank you for your commitment to implementing the laws as Congress has written and is intended to be able to get back to the fundamentals of the EPA, which is protecting our environment, safeguarding our health, and looking out for the well-being of the public. I'm excited to restore this proper balance of limiting risk with using sound science to protect our environment as the EPA's mission as Congress, which is the EPA's mission as Congress directed it to do. We must follow the law to restore Nebraskans' faith in our government institutions. So one of the areas that you're going to have an opportunity to be able to do that has to do with our renewable fuel standard. And this is one of the things I've commented in the past. I love this committee because we talk about ethanol and biodiesel and renewable diesel all the time. Chairman Capito will get tired of me doing that. But what we've seen in the past under the Biden administration is that RVOs are set below production levels and they're chronically late. For example, the RVOs for 2026 are required by law to be published on November 1st, 2024. That did not happen, and it's not likely to happen until probably December 2025. The 2023 and 2024 RVO will lag behind industry production by 3 to 4 billion gallons. That's the actual capacity of the industry today. Congressman Zeldin, do you commit to give producers and the industry certainty in the marketplace deserves? And again, this is what businesses want. They want certainty. They want to know what the rules are so they can plan for it. Will you give them the certainty by following the law as it relates to the timely and appropriate RVO rulemakings?
Yes, Senator.
Great. Thank you very much. Another pressing biofuel issue for Nebraskans is year-round E15. I want to thank Senator Fisher and your former colleague, Congressman Smith, for their leadership on the issue. And I'm happy to lend my enthusiastic support to this cause. The solution is over a decade in the making, and we were very, very close in the last Congress to actually getting E15 year-round, and I hope we do build on that momentum here in 2025. Congressman Zeldin, although the issue will not be solved entirely by the EPA, can we rely on your part to create a market of certainty for liquid fuel stakeholders and agricultural producers by doing all you can to ensure that Americans will have access to E15 all year round?
Senator, while I can't prejudge outcome of processes to follow across the board I know how important this issue is to you, and I know how important this is to President Trump. The president has expressed this time and again with regards to you. You've heard it from Senator Ernst. I've heard it from Senator Grassley, Senator Thune, Senator Fisher, and others, Senator Hawley. So I understand how much of a priority this is for you. As far as establishing certainty, hopefully this is something that Congress is able to resolve to the extent that you're relying on the EPA to establish that certainty. I look forward to being able to do my part, and I want to continue to work with you to achieve the outcomes that we had discussed.
Great, thanks. And you know, one of the things that, and we'll get into it in the second round of the questioning as well, but I think it's really, really important that we get away from what the Biden administration was doing with regard to trying to tip the scales toward their solution. That's how I interpret their delay on renewable fuels. Like, we all want to reduce our impact on the environment. Renewable fuels are one of the ways we can do that. They wanted to push their solution was electric vehicles. And again, electric vehicles can be part of the solution on how we do that as well. But what we should be focusing on is how American innovation, and I appreciate the fact that you mentioned this in your opening, American innovation is how we solve our problems in this country. So allow Americans to innovate, to find ways to be able to reduce our impact on the environment. And I'll give you just one example. Last year, or maybe it was 2 years ago, I was seeing a demonstration by a hybrid vehicle that had, for a $600 kit, had been equipped to burn 85% ethanol. And it was getting 38 miles to the gallon while reducing the amount of emissions that would have normally been done with a gasoline engine. So that's the kind of innovation that can help us reduce our impact on the environment if we're allowed as Americans to actually innovate, and rather than have this big top-down government one-size-fit-all, like, we're going to push this solution on you, whether it works or not. So I see my time has expired, but I look forward to the second round of our questions.
Thank you. Senator Markey.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Congressman Zeldin, in 2016, in a congressional debate, you said, quote, "There are many different ways that we can be better stewards of our environment. The key is to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, to become more environmentally friendly, and to pursue clean and green energy." Do you still believe, Mr. Zeldin, that it's our job to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels?
Ideally, Senator, to the extent that, first off, I support all of the above energy.
No, I didn't ask you that. I said, do you believe it's imperative that we, using your words, reduce our reliance on fossil fuels? Do you still believe that?
In considering all factors, in an ideal world, we would be able to pursue always the cleanest, greenest energy sources possible.
Well, I'm not hearing you say that you agree with Lee Zeldin in 2016. So that means that we're in a completely different context than for your nomination hearing. Do you see the fires in LA right now? Did you see the storms ripple through Georgia and through North Carolina? The threat of climate change hasn't gone away since you said that in 2016. And I'm just worried now your change of tone is politics and not the science, which you apparently did believe at that time. Let me ask you the next question. Do you also accept that under the Supreme Court's ruling in 2007 in Massachusetts versus EPA, and in 3 subsequent cases, that the EPA is obligated to regulate greenhouse gases as air pollutants from motor vehicles, power plants, and other industrial sources, as, quote, the Supreme Court said in their decision, may reasonably be anticipated to endanger public health or welfare? Do you accept that as a mandate, Mr. Zeldin?
Authorized. Yes, Senator.
You do?
Authorized to, Senator.
Authorized to. You don't actually then accept the requirement that you have to deal with the endangerment that fossil fuels actually poses to LA or North Carolina or Florida or the Gulf Coast. almost on a yearly basis. You don't accept that.
Senator, I just want to be accurate. And in citing Massachusetts versus EPA, the decision does not require the EPA. It
says
authorizes the
you're
EPA.
obligated. You're obligated to regulate. If you find there's an endangerment, you're obligated. Do you feel it's an obligation?
Yeah, but it doesn't say that you are obligated to, and that's it. There are steps that the EPA would have to take in order for an obligation to be created. I'm just going off the actual text.
Right.
Of
Well,
this
again,
legislation.
do you think we're in danger in LA? Do you think the people in North Carolina and the Gulf Coast were in danger?
No.
Are they in danger? Absolutely. For people who are having their homes burned down,
Then you have an obligation to deal with that and to do something. I'm not hearing your job at you see your job at the EPA as doing something about it. You know, we're watching firefighters run towards the flames in Los Angeles, and the EPA is responsible to keep the fiery embers of climate change under control. Power plants, cars, industry. Are you going to fight those dangers, Mr. Zeldin? Are you going, as you said in 2016, or are you going to fan the flames of destruction on the demand of the fossil fuel industry, which you now refuse to actually hold responsible